bid tabulation. Do you have that?
I think it's attached to the packet I just gave you.
It just says the one bidder. It doesn't say anybody else bid. Does anybody else bid?
Yeah, 3 bids.
Okay, I'm gonna call the building and site subcommittee meeting for June 20th, 2022 to order at 5:42. I'm gonna turn it over to Mark now to review the roofing bids.
Good evening, everyone. So what we have this evening for building and site is a award recommendation for bid pack 4B, which is the 2023 roofing projects on the north side of the district. If you guys can remember, this was the work that was supposed to be done this summer, but with very low bid participation and budgetary issues, we couldn't get it done this summer, so we bid that back out for 2023. So we are recommending Superior Services, who has done quite a bit of work in the district. They're an exceptional roofing service contractor. So the roofs that are in question here, or that will be getting replaced, take place at Fox, Mohawk, Ojibwa, Cheyenne, and Dakota High. And then there were 4 roofing alternates as well that we're proposing to take care of. So yeah, and we do have long lead times right now on material, especially roofing insulation of 12 months. So we recommend that we get this process started fairly quickly so we can secure materials and be ready for next summer.
Why do you think there's so much difference between quality and Superior?
In all honesty, I'm not sure, Ken. I think they actually bid a different type of roof. So Duralast is what the product is recommended in the district. I'm not
all flat roofs.
All flat roofs, yes, yeah. So they bid a little bit of a different product. I'm not sure if they had some union ties in there or not.
So what's Superior to it?
They're doing a Duralast roof. You're talking product?
Yeah.
Yeah, Duralast, yep. They've got a Duralast roof.
So they're taking the stone off.
Yep.
Taking all the tire off, going
Correct.
down to base material.
Yeah, basically take all the stone off, base material, put insulation on, and then put the Duralast product over the insulation.
What is the superstructure there? What is it made out of below the insulation?
Well, mostly it's all steel back.
Yeah.
In all these areas. I don't think there's anywhere else other than steel back.
Okay, so it's all steel deck, and then they put the insulation and the material and then rock on top. Or?
Well, the existing insulation, the existing steel deck will remain, the existing insulation will remain. We have some slight repairs to some of the wet insulation where it's gotten wet. Survey that for the first scan. So there's some select replacement of the existing insulation, but then new layer of insulation goes on top of that, and then the Duralast material. So it'll wind up being a little bit taller profile, and get a little more R value out of this when we're all done with it.
So the material doesn't require stone any longer?
No.
It's basically, we always it's like a pool liner. It's a giant sheet of rubber.
We've used this for years, haven't we?
In the last several years, yes. Yeah, we used to do build up roofs in the district for the first 15 years that I was here. That was just a standard product. Because of the car pedals and other issues, we got away from that. It doesn't move and expand as well as it used to. A lot of the contractors got out of the business. Copper's out of the business now. Honeywell's out of business. They just don't provide it anymore. So that's when we transition over to the Duralast product. Those are fairly available, especially here in Michigan. Product.
How does it, is it sections that just go together? Or what?
Yeah, it's giant sheets of rubber, and then it's welded together. Kind of thing with it.
I'm glad you said what it is. Not open fire.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
So is there a cushion built in or any damage underneath?
substructure or?
Yes, yeah, we do have wet insulation cushion, and then there's also a $75,000 allowance included in that for any additional work that we come across, yes.
How successful is the IPR rate as far as finding it if it has to be repaired?
The
I think you said IPR rate, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the infrared is great to scan that stuff. The problem is the infrared scan would have been done a couple months ago, so we got 12 months that potentially could have gotten a little bit bigger. That's why we wanted to build that cushion in there, because we know that there's a little more wet insulation with that infrared scan came up with a couple months ago. But it's, yeah, we feel very comfortable with that. If you remember last summer, we did have a couple issues when we pulled off the roof. We found some wood blocking that just didn't meet current code, so there'll be something like that. But for the most part, we feel that we built the appropriate cushion in with the allowance at this time.
And what was quality? What were they quoting? The same product or?
No,
I'm guessing they got a Firestone roof.
yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah, the roofing world is really upside down right now with what you can and can't get. That's why we're bidding this out 12 months in advance, in order to just at least be able to get the material. So I think you're just seeing the market is in such flux right now that somebody can or can't get the product that we want. But the Duralex was the basis of design, so we're happy that the low bidder could provide the originally first product.
Which that gets my last question is, how confident are they that do they have the materials already, or that they can get the materials?
They can get the materials. That's kind of why we put it out there early. Actually, the posted that I did with the contractor, they said, put it out at the right time, because we do have 12 months to get the insulation. Insulation is the big product that's hard to get, not so much the the top pool liner portion of the material. But they said, if we will have no problem being ready for next summer if we can, get a contract this summer. We'll get everything ordered. They'll store it and all that good stuff. So,
And if they get it in 12 months nowadays, that's amazing. Used to be a month was outrageous, but 12 months could go even quick. If they get it in, what are the odds that the price could skyrocket even more?
well, that's kind of like I said, that's kind of we built that allowance in. So we did take that into consideration. If there is a upcharge of any sort, we hope that doesn't happen. But obviously we don't know right now. So
Okay.
Why are we allowing them to pass on anything?
I'm sorry, you're saying
Are we allowing them to pass on anything?
If it's of an extreme nature outside of normal escalation, yes, and we built that into the, it's what we've just seen in the roofing industry right now, is that allow that. Typically what we're getting bidders not bidding the job, and that's what we think got last time we did this out, is don't want to bid, because we didn't know where escalation was. So that's why we're awarding the contract now, and split material now, so we don't have to face that growth of escalation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, I will close the meeting at 5:50, and we'll move on to the finance committee.
So we'll be back in 2 weeks or whatever to officially award this.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna call the Board of Finance Subcommittee meeting of June 20th, 2022 to order at 5:53. And first item on the agenda is the review of the 2022-2023 budget review. Packet that I provided all of you is a summary of the general fund budget. Spend some time going over each of these pages. The second page of your packet is the summary of the general fund budget, and it's broken down into revenues, major revenues and major expenditures. And the remaining documentation that's followed in the packet is more detailed.
Was I supposed to come up with that myself, or since I'm taking over the charge?
Have it?
No. This isn't it.
No, it's this.
Is that it? Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it was a thicker thing. I was thinking. 7, I thought it was
No,
for
it's
25 page. I apologize.
6 pages.
Okay.
So the first page that we're reviewing is labeled the original general fund budget for 2022-23. I'm going to spend most of my time talking about the area that is circled with the box. So if you look under revenue, which is the first probably quarter of the page, it shows you the changes in the revenues from our last amended budget, which was the June 6th third amended budget, and then the original budget, which is what we're proposing for next school year. If you look at total revenues, we are projecting that revenues are going to be about $183.8 million for next year, which is about $1.2 million higher than the current year budget, third amended budget. And I'm going to more detail on the next pages. If you go down more towards the bottom and look at total expenditures, we're projecting expenditures of $184.3 million, which is $1.2 million higher than the third amended budget for expenditures that we adopted on June 6th. And so basically, we have a projected expenditures exceeding revenues by a little over $500,000 for next school year. That will take our fund balance from roughly about 31.9 million down to 31.4 million. Remember, our budget's typically conservative because of the uniform budget and accounting act. So typically we come in better than this, and our expectation is that once the audit is done, everything's complete, come the end of next school year, we expect to be at least $1 million better than what's shown here. So for all intents and purposes, we're looking at a little better than a break-even budget for next year. Turn the page, I will go into more detail. Under the revenue adjustments category, what you can see is, again, I mentioned, total revenues changed under line 8 by just under $1.2 million. But you can see there was a lot of big movement among the revenue categories. So under revenue adjustments, if you look at lines 1 and 2, which is local property taxes and the enhancement MISD coverage, you can see under both of those categories, we are adding roughly almost a little over $21 million. I'm sorry, $20 million of funds there, and that is to place back the funds that we use to set up the student intervention fund. So if you look at lines 1 and 2, the $20 million coming back, you are also going to see under line 5 under grants, a loss of about $21.9 million. That's all of the ESSER funds that we use to basically fund existing programs so that we could use the local funds to set up the student intervention fund. So the combination of those two things, for the most part, wash. There's a little bit of a difference there, but that's why you see such large movement there. We've never really had any large movement in budgets of past, but it takes some explaining because these are one-time funds, the ESSER funds that we are receiving for this current school year that will not be there for next year. That clear as mud?
I actually have a question, but it's about line 3.
Okay.
And that is based on the, you know, that we're down, you're figuring 280 kids, right?
Right.
And we've always been very close in terms of what our predictions are in terms of that. So I'm assuming that the 280 is very accurate as opposed to the 1,000 or so kids that apparently have been lost, according to people who have come to our audience here and have posted online.
So under line 3, we're projecting a blended enrollment decrease of 280 FTEs from our current blended enrollment. We're basing that upon staffing numbers. So what we have are really basically butts and seats. So we graduate the 12th grade students, and then we bring in the current kindergarten. We assume the same is going to happen next year. That difference is about 400 kids. Our practice or our history has shown us that we typically get back some of those kids. So we're projecting basically receiving about 120 of those kids back over the course between now and when school starts, which is why we're going with the 280 reduction again. I know we're close. Sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's skill. In this day and age, it's hard. It's very difficult to predict these things because of COVID, because of the transiency that we currently are seeing among the parents and community members that we have. But we think it's a good number. We'll know more obviously in October, but that's what we're starting with the budget.
Awesome, thank you.
The next line, which isn't labeled with a number, it's between lines 3 and 4. The per pupil foundation increase, we're assuming an increase of $435 per pupil, which brings the foundation allowance up to $9,135 per pupil. That's based upon the governor's proposed budget. Between the House, the Senate, and the governor's budget, the governor's is the highest per pupil allotment. The lowest is, I believe, the House, which is at $300 per kid. So we're going with a higher one based upon the revenue consensus revenue estimating committee that occurred back in May. There is ample dollars in the school aid fund to provide this increase in more. Our only concern is what other things do they have in mind to utilize those funds? And we've seen a lot of different packages floated out there. Things like a gas tax holiday, things like reducing the sales tax. So until this process is complete, we won't know exactly how schools are going to get funded. But again, there is more than enough one-time money and more than enough recurring money of the state to fund $435 per pupil, which is how they're utilized. So I'm hoping that we'll know that by the end of this month. Last school year, I think they want to say it was June 30th when they announced it. So I'm hoping something like that will happen this year. But again, it's a big variable that unfortunately.
I think they have the largest surplus there already.
Right. In both the general fund and the school aid fund. There's roughly $9 billion with P unallocated moving into next fiscal year. So there is funds there. There are funds. Line 4, child care fund transfer, that's part of the ESSER funds. So obviously that's one-time money that we're not receiving next year. Grants, as I mentioned, that's decreasing by just under $22 million. And down at the bottom of the page, you can see the vast majority of that are ESSER funds. And then there are other funds tied to the ESSER, the ARP, gears, and other areas that are also being reduced next year because we are not going to be receiving those again. Line 6 is the flow through for the retirement offset funds. So you'll see that roughly $200 increase in revenues. It's also a $200,000 increase in expenditures. And then all other revenues, when we look, is a decrease of about $350,000. So again, there are large blocks of movement among the revenue groups, but overall, we're only looking at about $1 million to change between this current school year and next school year's budget on $180+ million of revenues. Under expenditures, for the adjustments under expenditures, the first line shows you the net staffing wage changes. That's decreasing by about $360,000. That takes into account the second year of the labor agreements, retirements that we're going to have from the staffs, with reductions in staff. There are vacancies out there that we're still trying to get a handle on what we're going to actually be able to fill, and then the stipend reduction that was approved last in the June 6th board meeting. That retirement expense is going up about $2.1 million, and that seems odd because we have wages going down. The vast majority of that increase is because the stipend that we paid was not subject to retirement. Now the steps and the wage increases that we have built into the labor agreement, those are subject to retirement. So we have to pay expenses on that. So that's why you see that increase of $2.1 million in retirement expense. Line 3, which is the health insurance, that's going up about $400,000. We already know what the hard cap dollar amount is for next year, for calendar year 2023. So we're coming off of the first half of the year, we're looking at a 3.7% increase. The second half of the school year, the hard cap is going up 1.3%. So the net cost of the district is about a 2.4% increase, which is what that is. Line 4 is the capital projects transfer, and then that was part of the budget from June, the first meeting in June. Obviously, we're reducing that because we're not allocating funds to that for next school year. Utility and fuel costs are going up about $700,000. Like all of us, school district also has all of these expenses too. So bus fuel, natural gas, and electric are seeing some pretty healthy spikes in costs right now, and is really affecting all of us. And I mentioned line 6, that's the flow through for retirement. Line 7 is the grants changes net of the supplanting, which are the supplanting is really the ESSER funds, going down about $1 million, and then all other expenses are going up about $200,000. So again, some larger changes individually in the expenditure adjustments, but total expenditures are only going up. We're projecting about $1.2 million on roughly 183, 184 million. Got some questions on page 2. Page 3 and page 4 is a little more detailed information of the revenue changes. So I summarized them on the last page. This is more detail. If you go down to the bottom of the page where all the federal grants are, you can see the allotment of federal funds that are being reduced out of next year's budget, because again, it's one-time money. So you can see the roughly $21.8 million of federal money that the district will not receive, that we received this year, that we won't be receiving next year. The last page, a little different spin, a little different look of what the expenditure changes are. And these are expenditure changes based upon what the state of California calls object code. So these are the major categories. wages, benefits, purchase service, and really all other expenses. So if you look at the top boxed in area, you can see that wages, as I mentioned on the previous page, wages are going down from about 94.2 million to 93.9 million, which is a decrease of almost $400,000. You can see more detail in the bottom half of the sheet for each of these categories. Benefits are going up. There's the 2.6 million. All purchase services within the district are going down about 200,000. And then all the other expenses, supplies, materials, and all other expenses are going down about $900,000 for next school year. So to drill down a little deeper, under table A, you can see where the $360,000 decrease in wages are, and the large decreases of the management category. That's a little deceiving because all of the support area stipend payments that were made, we budgeted there, and then the other 70% are obviously teacher expenses. So that decrease is mainly us pulling out the stipends and moving them to the other labor groups for next school year. So it skews it a little bit, but unfortunately that's the way that we had it budgeted, and it makes it look a little odd. But again, overall, the total wages are down about $360,000. Benefits we discussed, the $2.6 million, roughly 2.3 of it is retirement expense. The other roughly $400,000 of it are increases in healthcare. Under table C, which is purchase services, you can see the changes in purchase service. Security services and police liaison officers were going up about $100,000 in cost. Contracted paras, which are tied to the IDEA ARP fund, they're going down about $300,000, and then all other purchase services are changing only about $10,000. And then table D shows you, you see a little more detail of the supplies, materials, and other costs. You can see the capital transfer the capital projects fund, that decrease of $1 million. You can see the changes in the fuel, natural gas, and electric costs to the district. We're eliminating or reducing the classroom cameras that we purchased last fall from the budget that was all tied to ESSER 2 funds. We're increasing the two-way radio budget. That's bid that we approved. I don't know if it was last board meeting or 2 board meetings ago, but that is that. That's basically to outfit all of our buildings with a common walkie-talkie system. So roughly it's about 1,000 walkie-talkies that will be out throughout all of our buildings for safety purposes. It'll be all one make, one model, one consistent communication across the district. So that is kind of a snapshot of the budget. Again, so a lot of variables we don't know about, a lot of big variables between what the state funds us per pupil and also what our enrollment's going to be. But overall, it's fairly positive. I mean, considering how many, how difficult COVID has been and how difficult budgeting is in this environment.
Just a couple of questions, guys. You don't show the working capital and unemployment.
No, we do, but we're budgeting the same amount as we are this year.
So there's no difference.
Okay.
And are you taking into account the businesses that are getting reduction in values?
So currently, right now, we have for tax abatements.
Not tax abatements, but just going before the state and reductions.
And their taxable values. I believe this year, I think we spent just over $500,000 in that. We cut that budget the same. And the vast majority of that reduction was really one entity, it was Partridge Creek.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to ask you.
So that's already been taken into account of in the current school year. We have that budget rolling forward next school year. Our hope is we're not going to see anything that major, but
Well, there's a lot of housing being built still. Hey, should go on the tax rolls this year.
Right.
So, offset. Maybe they'll figure out what to do with Partridge. It's a great facility, but they just lost their anchors.
In a typical year, we're usually between $150,000 to $200,000 in taxable value changes, reductions. So again, there's a good $325,000 sitting there for that type of issue. I don't foresee that because we don't have a large non-homestead tax base. I mean, Partridge Creek is really our largest, one of our largest taxpayers from, in a sense of, for non-homestead taxes. So
Is Walmart done anything?
I won't.
Are you satisfied with the fund equity?
Well, if we were 20%, yeah, I'd be very happy. 17%,
17, okay, well, I average.
17% is a number that is, I think, right where the state is kind of average right now. We're somewhere between, I think, 17 and 18% right now. So we're right where we need to be. Who knows? I mean, with this, with COVID, this pandemic, and the crazy things that have gone on in the last 2.5 years, I don't know what an appropriate fund balance is anymore. From my vantage point, an appropriate fund balance is enough funds so that we don't have to borrow in times where we're not receiving revenues. So most people don't understand that school fiscal year starts July 1. We don't receive our first state aid payment until October 20. So there's a large cash balance there that we have to fund in order to keep operating.
So you would, normally I would see in the fund equity, a projection of how much is somehow is restricted. So you're saying, how much is restricted?
I don't know what, I don't remember off the top of my head. I can look, we'll take a break, I'll look at our last year's.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Under table A, you said the 740 was taking stipends.
Yeah, so what happened was when we budgeted those, all of the stipends for all the support groups. So any non-teacher payment that was made, that will be made, we budgeted all under management. Because we didn't have time to distribute it everywhere.
Now, when were those stipends already given out?
Those are projected to go out in the school.
But that's not the ones that we just approved or whatever you want to say.
Yes, those are the ones. Those are the exact ones that were just paid.
Now, on page 2.
Yes.
The 360,655. That's including stipends too.
Correct.
What stipends are those?
The same exact stipends. So the 360,000, that number is the same as this number. It's all under wages. That is all encompassing with this same number. Those are the same exact.
Okay, so why is one 740, 407, one is 360? And this one here is actually including stipends with other things.
So the 740 reduction is part on the last page. The 360,655 includes the 740,000. All of those total 360,000. The 740, the 67,000, 78,000, all of those things total a negative 360,655. Page 2, that I just summarized it. It's all that one head. So all of these things that are summarized on page 2 include all of the changes among these groups, which include the labor agreements, the retirements, vacancies, and the stipend reduction.
Okay, so on page 2 though, it's a 360, 655.
Yep.
Last page is 740. It's a lot bigger. So how does the first one include it, but what are we missing?
So on the last page, yes, the 740,000 is the first number. It's all of the numbers there. You add all those numbers together, they total 60.
Okay, I get it. So all of this, okay, I get it now.
All of those are in this one number on page 2.
Okay, I guess one other question though, on the stipends we just gave out, well, I thought it was like 3 million. I thought we gave out like 3 million in stipends because we said that was extra money.
2.5.
$2.5 million. Okay, so again, when we look at the overall budget, the 2.5 million, I'm pulling up. So the wages are going down $2.5 million because we're not paying those next year. The labor agreements that are coming in, steps, cost us about $1.8 million in wages, and the 2% increase that we provided was another about probably 1.6, 1.7 million. So there's $3.5 million coming on. So I'm taking away 2.5 million. I'm adding in 3.5 million. And then I also have retirements, which is reducing the cost, reductions in staff, and also vacancies that were not fully budgeted.
So just put in abs terms or whatever. The 2.5 million is coming out of a positive number, which leaves a little bit extra, putting us into a negative. Interesting. Okay. Okay, and then I guess the last question I have is, we just gave away 2.5 million in stipends, which we said was extra money. But now we're proposing a budget that's going to be $500,000 in the hole. So that wasn't extra money. That was money that we probably should have kept at least 500,000 to keep it even. Is that correct?
So again, the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act, we budget conservatively, meaning it doesn't allow us to overspend our budgets. So by budgeting conservative, I have extra funds budgeted among many of these categories so that I don't go over. All that excess money comes back to the district. Each year, I'm typically $1 million better than what we have on approved by the board. So when you see a number where we're $500,000 in the hole, I'm telling you that I can commit to being $1 million better than that, which means that $1 million will come into this and take the negative to a positive $500,000. So it's kind of like your checkbook at home. When you plan or you're hiring a contractor and they tell you, we think it's going to cost $10,000 to do this. If it comes in at $9,700, that extra $300 stays in your bank. I'm saying that $300 is equivalent to $1 million on any given year with the district. I typically come in $1 million better than what the bottom line budget is in the school district. And again, for 17 years, I've said that I've used the same language. Even the labor group, so does this include $1 million? No. This includes $1 million, yes. Everyone knows. And it's typical of most districts. $1 million difference in a budget is accepting off by 0.5%.
Except Birmingham.
So, with your experience, you're saying it's a safe assumption, but technically it's still an assumption.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Typically, we are and again with the auditors, they're going to audit this year. And obviously, go through this process, and we'll know better. But my experience is not. I don't know if I've ever come in under $1 million. Typically, I'm more than $1 million, and that's I get beat up more because I'll come in $1.5 million or $2 million. And that for me, I don't understand why we're that high. Because typically we're right around $1 million. And unfortunately, it's a requirement of the law. You can't overspend our budget, so we have to assume a little worse than what we planned for expenses.
You know, Robert, it's very usual for department heads to come in and estimate aggregate on things, and then when it comes lower, they're safe. The trades come in.
Yeah.
One of the classic areas of the budget are building administrators' budgets. They typically don't spend anywhere between, I think we allocate about $1 million to all of the buildings. They typically come in 100,000, 150,000. They don't spend 100 to 150,000 of that $1 million. That's part of the $150,000. Just part of that $1 million. They just don't spend. At the end of the year, everything happens, or timing of bills when they're paid. It happens. They don't necessarily spend. Each one of the departments has the same issue. The building and grounds area, they expect to buy a vehicle. And right now, it's hard to get vehicles. That money falls. That's budget money that makes up $1 million a month.
Well, let me ask you, I guess, one of the things that's coming into our concern here is there's districts in the area that they're having to reduce their Title I budgets. Drastically reduce. Yeah, we're coming up with extra money. I'm trying to think, are you that good, or are we doing something wrong, or is there something that we are missing?
Well, I don't know that we're doing anything wrong, we're just doing it right. Okay. We make sure, my philosophy on budgets is always the same. That's where 90% of our expenses are. You gotta know yourself. You have to know where everyone's at, you have to know how many you have, and what you're getting. If I can get 90% of the budget, right, the other 10%, just kick it off, especially with 3% that you do. There's not a whole lot of leeway in our budgets because of that we're a service. That's what we do. We're here for kids. Good question. Any other questions? All right, then I will call the Board Finance Subcommittee meeting to an end at 6:25. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm not. I have Brad here. Jennifer and Laura, they need to review something. Sorry, I forgot. We're still here, still in session.
All right, super quick, because I know you guys are going to be starting your board meeting soon. Thank you for carving out a little piece of your agenda for us. It's that time of year again to be planning for the audit. And Jennifer Chambers, as Scott said, I'm your engagement partner for the audit, and then Laura Tack is with me today, and she's the manager for our engagement. So we're getting going with the audit process. In your board packet, you received a letter which outlines the different phases of the audit. It outlines our responsibilities as your auditor, what the district's responsibilities are in terms of the financial statements. And so I would just encourage you to read that to familiarize yourself with the audit process. That is kind of part of the process from a fiduciary perspective, is that we cover that with you, and that we open up these lines of communication so that you know that I'm your person to call if you have questions about the audit process as we go along. So we kicked off last week officially doing what we refer to as interim testing. We focused heavily in the grants area, working through compliance testing, whatnot. We looked at bids, some of the detailed transactions. And then when we come back in August, that's where we perform really the bulk of our audit procedures and really get into the year-end numbers, work through those financial statements with the plan of coming to you probably in September or October to present the audit results. So high level, that's the audit process. As part of our process, we like to provide an opportunity for this committee to ask us questions, to understand different aspects, or particularly make sure that we're aware of any concerns or just areas, even if they're not concerns, but areas that you might want us to pay special attention to in the audit, so that we can build that into our procedures as we go along. So I know we're a little bit short on time, so we might not be able to gather that. If you've got questions currently, we can go through those. But like I said, my contact information is also in the letter, and you can feel free to reach out to us at any time.
I've worked with Plant Grant a lot of years. So I know your procedures are very good. You're very thorough.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us hear the budget discussion. It's very helpful as we work through our stuff as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Officially, I'll call this, subcommittee. That's going to end at 6:28.
Call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Chippewa Valley Board of Education on June 20th. Please rise for the pledge.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In the first order of the B additions and deletions we have, let me see. First of all, I'd like to excuse our 3 board members present. Next is item C, our breakfast program. The time. Call the time. Oh, the time at 6:34. Okay, at 6:34, we are going to begin our breakfast program hearing that is required by law. So this hearing begins at 6:34, we said, right? Participant in the, I'm supposed to read this, right, Scott? As a participant in the National School Lunch Program, program regulations and state of Michigan law require that a breakfast program meeting established criteria be offered at all Chippewa Valley schools K through 12 buildings. Buildings with free reduced applications totaling less than 20% of enrollment in October of 2022 are not mandated in offering a breakfast program that is in compliance with applicable regulations in 2022-2023. Buildings with the applications totaling more than 20% of enrollment in October 2022 that are mandated to offer a breakfast program in 2022-2023 are Cherokee Elementary, Cheyenne Elementary, Clinton Valley Elementary, Erie Elementary, Fox Elementary, Huron Elementary, Miami Elementary, Mohawk, Ojibwa, Ottawa, these are all elementaries. And then Algonquin Middle School, Iroquois Middle School, Seneca Middle School, Wyandotte Middle School, Chippewa Valley 9th Grade Center, Chippewa Valley High School, and Mohegan High School. The purpose of this hearing is to receive comments on this district not providing a breakfast program. Established criteria in districts buildings that have less than 20% meeting eligibility requirements for free or reduced price lunches. Are there any comments?
I guess I have a comment. I just want to be clear that we are still providing lunch in all of our buildings. Correct. Whether or not they meet the 20% cutoff.
That's what we decided.
Right.
Our breakfast.
Correct.
Correct.
So 4 of our buildings are precariously close. Okay, and Dakota 9. Okay. Okay, I think that's all I have, because all of our problems, I was thinking feeding is the easiest one to solve.
Yes.
So,
Are there any other comments?
Yeah, is there a chance that halfway through the year or something, the 20% could change and we have to start? No?
It's all based upon October of 2020. Okay. It's all backdated.
Okay.
And since we're providing it anyway, we're not going to take it away from anybody.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. This hearing is ending at 6. Oh, the audience, anybody in the community want to comment? Okay, hearing none. We are ending the hearing at 6:38 p.m. Okay, the next hearing that we are doing is the budget hearing. This hearing is beginning at 6:39. State of Michigan law requires that Michigan School District adopt budgets for the next fiscal year prior to the start of the fiscal year. Before adopting the budget, a public hearing must be conducted. The purpose of this hearing is to receive comments on the proposed general fund, food service fund, athletic fund, building activities fund, CTE fund, and Macomb International Academy fund budgets for the 2022-2023 fiscal year, and to receive comments on the levy of 18 mills on non-homestead property for operating purposes for the general fund. Are there any comments? Anyone from the community? Okay, this hearing is ending at 6:40 well, actually 6:30. I guess it started at 6:38 and ending at 6:39 and they're on the first 10 pound. Okay. Next on the agenda is presentations and recognitions. Mr. Rock.
Thank you. We're going to start this evening with something. We're going to get the presentations in just a minute here. Just want to start by saying that this meeting tonight is being conducted on June 19th, which is a federal holiday. And I'd just like to give a little background information on this. Because there was information in this that when this was signed into law last year by President Biden in June of 2021, I read about it. There's just surprising information in this and how it all came about. So a little history lesson. On January 1st, 1863, President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, granting freedom to slaves. And at that time, it required Union troops to enforce this. And it was 2.5 years later, on June 19th, 1865, that Union troops landed in Galveston with the news that the war had ended and the enslaved were now free. So it took nearly 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed for all people who were enslaved to be free. So now June 19th has been celebrated by many people for over 155 years. And as I said, it was just signed by President Biden last year as a federal holiday. So I want to start with that. And then I want to move on to, we're going to do a couple of presentations this evening. And I'm saying the name right. People have told me I'm saying it right. It's Lucas Basil. Lucas here. Lucas, I'm saying it right. Oh, Lucas, we're going to meet the microphone right here. Okay, this one's kind of a one-off. This is something that Lucas has achieved, and we thought it'd be fun to bring him in here and recognize him for that. So this is all about him being a member of the baseball team, and I think some great things have happened to your baseball team since this time, right? They surpassed your home run? No. Okay, so we have a little, just a short little video to show you of the crowd that now Lucas can say he's a part of. So if we can play that video.
Oh, I apologize.
Long drive, deep left field. This is on the roof, over the roof. Gone, home run for Cecil.
One out, bases empty. The 2-1 pitch to Gibson. There's a belt to left. That's gone. Let's watch it. Where is it? Is it out of the park? Yes. It's out of Tiger Stadium. Kirk Gibson has done it. He got it over the roof in right field, over the third deck, out of this ballpark.
Got in on him a little bit, and he still hits it. Out! Another home run for Miguel Cabrera.
So we can take Yogi Berra out of next year, but if this mountain say he just hit a home run for those Tigers out
recreate the moment for us, Lucas.
I mean, I've never really hit a home run before, so that was the first time I've done it, and it felt unreal. It's just crazy to jump like one of the people that do. Like crazy too, so it's awesome.
You would never hit a home run to that point. You know, I have a similar story like that. I was playing about a 500-yard hole at Pebble Beach, and I never had a hole in one, and I just teed off and I hit a hole in one at Pebble Beach. The crowd didn't go crazy or anything for me. So, wow, I didn't know that was your first home run. That even adds more to the story. So kind of describe that feeling and like talk about the pitch, talk about the hit, and talk about your thinking as you realize what you had done.
Well, it was a high inside fastball, and that's like my #1 pitch that I hit. And as soon as I hit it, I knew it was going to go far, but I didn't know it was going to go over. And it was just unreal. Like my legs went numb as I was going around bases.
Thought you might crumple right between second.
Or anything, it's like it looks stupid and ruin the moment.
The team would run out there, pick you up and carry you across home plate. So that really added a whole new wrinkle for me. I wasn't really ready for that. So besides your home run this year, just talk a little bit about your season, because your season really changed. So this is more a team than just you.
So we started off the season 2-12. We had a losing record, and we could have just, fell back and we could have just had an average season, but we ended up beating all these teams that no one thought we would beat. And we ended up beating Dakota, Anchor Bay, and Henry Ford, and we all went all the way to regionals for the first time in Chippewa Valley history.
Wow, that's really good. Did you win the regional?
We won the regional, but we lost the state quarterfinal to Grosse Pointe North.
What was the score to Grosse Pointe North?
It was 5-1, I think.
Okay, and Grosse Pointe North ended up being a state semifinalist and lost to an undefeated team. What was the score?
I think it was 1-0.
That was it. So you can just see of what the team did during the course year. Now, here's a tough question. So when you think back, what will you remember the most? Your home run or your surprise regional championship?
Definitely the regional championship, because that was like the first time we've ever done that in history, and everyone was just going crazy when we won. It's just that was a lifetime experience, really.
All right, well, let's hear it for Lucas. We have a certificate here of recognition for you, and I normally give out 1 Dairy Queen card. I'm putting 2 with you because you deserve it. So if we could have board members, let's do a picture with Lucas. This is Lucas the Bomb Basil. Just one last question. Did the rest of the season, did you ever get another high inside pitch? What was that at? I think also here we have your athletic director, so Michelle, thanks for being here. Support your athletes. I've always had this fear, that dreamlike thing, that someone would ask me to throw out the first pitch at a baseball game, and I would like super embarrass myself. And you go up, and was that your first at bat?
Yeah.
Ouch. Okay, well, we have a lot more home runs and a lot more too. So, all right. So thanks for being here. Thanks to the whole family. Who's here with you, Lucas?
My brother, my mom.
Oh, well, you take your brother to Dairy Queen then. Right. All right. We're going to bring up Kim Price. Kim Price. I'm going to bring up Ms. Christina Kazus, the principal at Wyandotte Middle School. Special education supervisor, Kelly. The two of you can come up. Kelly, there's Kelly. All right, I'm going to turn this over to Christina, right? And Christina's going to start, and she can explain it, and then I'll come back in later.
Good evening, everyone, Board of Education and all of our community. So tonight we are here to honor a very special woman, and that is Miss Kim Price. I'm going to talk a little bit about Kim at the school level, and then Ms. Newhouse can talk a little bit about special services and how important Ms. Price has been to our program at Wyandotte Middle School. So Wyandotte is honored and blessed to house the CLP program, which is our creative learning program. We have many of our fine students here today to support Ms. Price. Ms. Price earned the Make a Difference Award, although I think they kept it. I think they also changed the catchphrase this year to Make It Happen, and she does both. So we are fortunate to have her at Wyandotte, and she's played a significant role in supporting both her teacher, Mr. Vickers, and her students in the CLP program. Whether it's in the social studies class, science class, ELA, she provides support to her students whenever needed in any capacity. And before we talk about the students, which we are all here for, I wanted to point out a couple of things that Kim does at Wyandotte. Just as a colleague, she steps up amongst her peers each and every time. At Wyandotte, we have many para-educators, and so Kim is the first person to show up at 7:55. Christina, where do we need someone? Do we need coverage? She helps us with that. She navigates anything needed in a moment's notice to make sure our students are supported and taken care of. And as an administrator, I can't tell you how much that's appreciated. She's friendly, takes a genuine interest in the staff at Wyandotte, and has made many lasting friendships. But again, above all, she puts students first. Her willingness to support all aspects of our CLP programming is amazing. Her calm demeanor and compassion towards the students is something like I've never seen. We had a student this year that has high medical needs. And whenever that student's para was out, she was the first to try to bring comfort to him, to make him feel comfortable, so he could last that school day. Because in those situations, sometimes a student might have to go home if they're not comfortable, and she was the first to go in there. And that also set the tone for the other paras in our building. And they thought, Kim could do it, I could do it. She is the first to help students de-escalate and make sure that they stay calm and that they're able to have a positive experience at Wyandotte. We know that students think she's enthusiastic, her passion, her enthusiasm, her dedication, and so much so that a few of our students actually said they wanted to say something about Miss Price. No. Okay. Okay. All right. So Rhea, do you mind? You want to say what you like most about Miss Price? No. So just Rhea. Just Rhea. Rhea's gonna represent.
Miss Price is so loving. She's so sweet. She's so kind. She always talks about her hair, and it's so sweet.
Well, she does have good hair. She has great hair. Kate. Kate? Yeah? Yeah. Did you want to say what you like about Miss Price and how she helps you?
Miss Price, you're nice, cool, always our favorite teacher.
So we can hear that often from many of our CLP staff. These students love them. And I think that, as you can see by the amount of families we had that turned out to support Ms. Price, she's so well supported, and we really love you and appreciate everything you do at Wyandotte.
A couple additional things about Kim. She started in Chippewa Valley in 2014 as a lunch monitor at Huron Elementary, and actually worked with our director, Tara Cook, who couldn't be here tonight, and then became a one-on-one paraprofessional. She has worked in 2 of our elementary schools, as well as now being at Wyandotte. She is just described by so many people as tender-hearted, enthusiastic, patient, a cheerleader, and goes above and beyond. The really special thing about the Make a Difference Awards that happen through the ISD is that all of the nominations come from parents and from families. Kim was nominated by 6 of our families, which include the Dameron family, the Carr family, the Abugase family, the Laws family, the Dunn family, and the Martell family, and they're all here tonight. So thank you so much. In addition to Kim, we had several other staff members that were nominated but were not selected to win. I'd like to recognize them as well. We have Amy Papke, 5th grade CVVA teacher at Mohawk, Kelly Bach, CLP K1 teacher at Cheyenne, Brooke Moore, CLP K1 teacher at Miami, Gina Vigiletti, resource room teacher at Erie, Cherie Siegel, speech language pathologist at Erie, and Mr. Tom Downham, assistant principal at Dakota High School. So thank you so much for all of your support. We couldn't do it without families like this. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, I really want to thank our parents, because in my job, I've been fortunate to be invited to this award ceremony at the ISD on a number of occasions, and that's because our parents enthusiastically nominate staff members for this honor. So I thank the parents for recognizing what the adults do for your children and for you in our schools. I do want to read, we said that how many families actually now? 6 families nominated. So, and I think the way it works, one nomination ended up going through, right? Is that how it goes? And then that family went to the award ceremony, and all these other 6 families saying, well, I thought my nomination was better. I'm not sure why I was. But just, so what we did was, we just picked out some lines from other people's nominations. I'm not going to give credit to the families, but I want you to pay attention to the words and their meanings, because of the personal nature of the support that Kim Price provides to students. So here are some comments from our community. Kim is truly nothing short of amazing. Our kids are Kim's kids. Kim makes it a point to not only know our kids, but the families in the program. Kim is the person my child goes to when he is feeling scared or anxious, because she is supportive, calming, and caring. She spends an immeasurable amount of time and resources to help all our CLP kids. Kim's commitment to communication to me as a parent has made my life easier in many ways. Keeping track of school events, half days, field trips, late buses, etc. could be overwhelming at times. Kim often texts to let parents know what is going on at school. Intuitively, she often answers questions before they're even asked. Kim's enthusiasm and creative spirit ensures her students all can reach their maximum potential. As a result, Kate has performed in school talent shows. As an 8th grader, she auditioned, Kate, so Kate was here, right? Kate, I love your t-shirt, I love AC/DC. I noticed that as soon as you came up. As an 8th grader, Kate auditioned for a solo performance at the Winter Choir concert in front of a Dakota High School audience. I have no doubt the opportunities Kim gave her in elementary school gave her the confidence to perform to a much larger crowd. With Kim's encouragement, Adam is a student, Adam pursued his dream of joining the Wyandotte Middle School football team. It was a positive experience for him and the friends he made along the way. She goes above and beyond the regular school day. She is there to lend support inside and outside of the classroom. Kim is known for attending her students' baseball games, soccer games, birthday parties, fundraisers, and special events like Families Exploring Down Syndrome. She is the biggest cheerleader and advocate I know Her desire to make my child feel included exceeds my expectations. She is a liaison between families and teachers to ensure students receive supports they need in the extra practice work to do at home. She's even made custom shirts for herself and a child to celebrate Twin Day at school. She just didn't say wear blue. Kim made the shirts. Kim has an amazing bond with her students. One parent wrote, "Our child has delivered many blessings over the years. Kim is absolutely one." So let's hear it for Kim Price.
So I get kind of emotional, so I'll try. So like I said, I've been doing this job now for 8 years. This is my 8th year. I just finished my 3rd year at Wyandotte, although in Dakota was my first complete year in the building. So going to middle school was a little bit of a challenge, but it was a good one. It was a good fit for me. It was good to watch how these kids have grown. This was a bittersweet year because 3 of these kids that are sitting here today are going into the high school, and I've been with them since they were in 1st and 2nd grade. So this was a rough year, but I'm not moving on to the high school. I'm staying in Wyandotte. Sorry, I know. So I just feel lucky to come in every day and have a great staff to work with. I love my job. I love what I do. So I don't, all of these honors, I guess, I appreciate them, and I just really love what I do. So I have the support of all of these families and then my own family, who I had to drag teenage boys out today, but they willingly came. A little bit of effort. So my husband, Rick, I have 2 boys in Chippewa District. Gavin will make sure to be a senior next year, and Zach will be an 8th grader at Wyandotte. So he was the least excited, I think, when we found out I was moving over to Wyandotte, because he was going to be going to Wyandotte too. But now he embraces it because I keep a candy jar in my room. So thank you to all the parents and Chippewa for giving me the opportunity to do what I do.
Here tonight, in order to see Ms. Price, Kim Price, would you just raise your hand? How many people are here for this? I think that's impressive. All right, board members, do you have any comments?
Just, you know, it was great to go to the event and see you get the recognition at the county level. That was a great event. I just want to say congratulations.
I just want to say thank you so much for everything you give to students, because all students need that support, but the group of students that you work with need it more, and it makes us very proud that you represent our school district. Thank you.
All right, so we have a little token of our appreciation here, and I'm sorry, but to adults, I don't know if they give Dairy Queen cards. But I did give 2 to the bomber right there. And there's a face value of $10, but for $20, we'll give you those 2. So thank you very much, and let's do some photos up here with Kim. Our students right here.
gonna take a short recess, so all the people that are here to celebrate everyone can take their leave if they so choose. I think a 5-minute break. I went to wait for Robert to come in. One moment, please. Okay, item. Oh. All right, the next item on the agenda is the general consent agenda.
We have one more under presentations recognitions. Okay, all right. So this evening, we're gonna have a short presentation for the board here called Elementary STEM Plus. And what this is about a curricular change we intend to make next year in our elementary schools. So the presentation will be done by two of our instructional technology coordinators, Dawn Barrett and Jessica Thole. So Dawn, do you want to come up here? There, great. Thank you. So this is Jessica Thole right here, and in the white sweater is Dawn Barrett. So I'll let you do it.
right, good evening. Again, I am Jessica Full, and I'm here with Dawn Barrett, and we had the privilege of leading our science specialist teachers through the curriculum refinement process to change their current science specialist course over into a STEM-based course. Tonight, we'd like to provide you with an overview of this course, and that we've taken through the K-12 process, and answer any questions you might have afterward. So an integrated approach to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics prepares students for the future. Having a course that effectively integrates these subjects simulates what students will experience in the real world. For example, science and mathematics cannot be done in isolation, and engineering relies on the findings of science, applications of math, and use of technology. A class that is hands-on with fun and engaging experiences will foster collaboration and allow for students to become more effective problem solvers. Integrating real-life problems allows students to learn at a deeper level and see STEM as relevant to their lives. In an ever-changing world, we are tasked with training students for jobs that don't even exist yet.
Efforts have been made nationally to ensure students receive STEM education. In response to that, Michigan adopted the new MyTech and computer science standards to address the need for students to acquire computer science knowledge and skills. This course will address both sets of those newly adopted standards, as well as the engineering principles from NGSX. These standards overlap in many areas and accomplish common goals. This course will allow us to not only be competitive with other school districts, but also provide needed support to grade level teachers in all subject areas as they integrate technology. When determining essential standards for this new course, we noticed three main components: engineering, coding, and digital citizenship, which are the building blocks of the state standards. The fourth component, basic tech skills, are crucial skills that need to be covered by all teachers in the one-to-one district. As we walk you through the components of this course, you will see images and videos of how this course will benefit our students. The first component we're going to look at is the engineering and science component. Engineering and science component of this course will encompass hands-on activities that focus on building and testing using a variety of consumable and non-consumable materials. Through these activities, students will sharpen their computational thinking skills. These skills allow students to break down complex problems into smaller, simpler problems, make connections between and within problems, and adapt solutions to fit other problems.
I think a lot of people, they misunderstand what STEM is, and they think it's something that happens later in life. But where it really starts is when children are very young, when they're very curious about how the world works and what they can do within the world of objects.
Paintbrush that can do three things. So it has a dot maker, which it can make dots with, a thick paintbrush, which it can make thick lines, and then a thin brush, which makes thin lines.
second component we're going to look at is coding. The coding component of this course focuses on the same skills as engineering and science, but with more of a technology focus. Students will engage in online coding programs as well as work with hands-on coding devices like Lego and Sphero. The third component is digital citizenship. Digital citizenship is the ability to safely and responsibly access digital technologies, as well as being an active and respectful member of society, both on and offline. Teachers will use lessons from sites like Discovery Ed and Common Sense Education to cover topics such as privacy and security, cyberbullying, communication, and more. As we integrate more technology into school, it is important that we teach students how to be safe online, as well as how to be good digital citizens. Lastly is basic tech skills. Preparing our students for a technologically advanced world starts with basic tech skills, such as using a mouse and typing. As a one-to-one district, a list of age-appropriate skills was developed as a guide for elementary teachers. While these skills are covered in all classrooms, they are inherently covered in this course and will only make it easier for teachers to integrate technology skills into their grade level classrooms.
The curriculum process was started as a result of recognizing the importance of STEM education and including it in our district curriculum. Our Executive Director of Innovation and Learning, Karen Langlands, met with elementary principals to seek feedback concerning moving forward with changing the Science Specials course to a STEM course. With all 12 principals on board, Karen then met with us and our other members of the instructional technology team to discuss leading the curriculum refinement process for the new STEM course. We then met with all 12 Science Specials teachers to begin the process. During this time, teachers reviewed and approved essential standards, collaborated on lessons and resources to use, and determined district-wide components needed to include in the course proposal. In addition, it was determined that moving forward with this course change was necessary, not only because of the importance of STEM skills for our students, but also to create equity between buildings. Many of these teachers have already adapted their current lessons to include technology and engineering components, providing some students with exposure to STEM. However, the teachers agree that it is crucial to create consistency and provide a STEM course for all students in Chippewa Valley schools. The costs in the proposal include consumable and non-consumable materials. Currently, the class is funded through building budgets, which does not allow every class to be funded equitably across the district. Some buildings support this class with child care PTO funds, which creates a greater discrepancy of funding. Essentially, the kids that need it the most have the least. Once the proposal was written and reviewed by the instructional technology team and the Science Specials teachers, it was then presented to and approved by all 12 elementary schools, the Technology and Science Curriculum Councils, as well as the K-12 committee. Over the next few months, various purchases for this course, such as coding devices, will come to the board for approval. The money for these purchases is budgeted from the Student Intervention Fund. This program supports all K-5 students in the district. It will support not only elementary classrooms, but build the foundation to then support middle school and high school programs as well. Thank you for allowing us to share with you our excitement about this new course and all the ways it will benefit our students. What questions might we answer for you?
I think it's a great program. It's the right way to go. More we can do, we can set part of the building aside to do something. In that way, it's the future. Starting it.
I really appreciate your recognition of our buildings having inequities between them and trying to make that right. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. I have a question about how the courses are rolled out. So the 4 building blocks that you talked about, so are those all taught at every level each year, or is it something that you start with a specific, you start first with, you know, math or whatever, science first, and then build those building blocks as the kids get older? Or are in every, like each 10-week period of every year, is it taught in those 10-week periods at elementary level?
The 4 components would be woven together all for every grade level throughout. So even it would just be designated like it would be at a kindergarten level.
Right.
So the kindergartners would get coding, they'd get digital citizenship, they'd get basic tech skills. They'd start with, you know, something simple like mouse, using a mouse and clicking. Because believe it or not, their little hands they're used to tablets.
Yes.
So taking all 4 of those components at every level, just making sure it's differentiated for their age group.
Okay.
And I believe that, so they'll see students all year. They'll have their same students all the way through the school year as an elementary specialist class. So they'll be able to build on those throughout the entire year.
Right, because most of our elementaries, I mean, depending on size, have 1 science specialist teacher, correct or no?
The larger schools might have a traveling specialist teacher. And then depending on the school, I know as a past traveling specialist teacher, we did rotate, but I worked hand in hand with that that main building teacher, so that we didn't overlap.
Right, but they will see each of those, every student in the building throughout the year.
Yep.
All right, and that's once a week, though, right? Is it once a week?
Once a week, yes.
All right, thank you.
I would be interested in seeing it far more in depth, so.
I was just gonna add to that, piggybacking off what Jessica said, the coding devices that are in the proposal, the teachers actually tested them all out and picked out ones that were developmentally appropriate. So the little car that you saw that was on the mats, that's specifically for kindergarten and first grade students. The robots that are circles, those are gonna be used 2.5, and then the Legos are also gonna be used 2.5.
Oh.
So they expand it as they get older.
Okay, great.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Jessica. You doing? I just want to make a final comment. I think probably they're all important slides that were talked about, but one of the most important was the one that dealt with process. Because if you think about what was done, and how long did it take to kind of develop this? Because I know we've talked about it in other school years. Was it?
Our first time meeting with the science specialist teachers was beginning of February.
Okay.
Well, we started the process back in 2017, and we've gone through trying to get it passed, but.
Right, so you just hit some stumbling blocks along the way. So I think the important thing to discuss regarding that is the fact that this is going to be taught in lieu of a science specials class.
Right.
So now it's called STEM Plus. So we have 12 teachers across our district who teach that. And they take a lot of pride in what they do. And many of them have been there for a number of years and have developed the curriculum that they teach. And so it's very meaningful to them. So making this change is not on the surface an easy thing to do. And having people with the skills of Jessica and Dawn in order to lead those teachers through the process is key to arriving at this. Because I would imagine there are some places in which someone who makes decisions says, we're going to switch science to STEM. And then they try to implement the program. In our school district, it is a linear process that involves people who are actually going to teach it. So my final statement related to that is to thank you as a Board of Education, because as we as central office administrators have advocated for that, you have supported that. Because you need people like Dawn and Jessica to lead this process in order it to really be effective when it is implemented. Because you got to work with the staff who's on the ground teaching it. So thank you, Board of Education, for your foresight to develop people in leadership roles who can really institute change in our school district. So we look forward to this, and I'm sure the program will get nothing but better and better. So thank you very much. Thank you, Dawn and Jessica, for what you do. Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is F1, general consent agenda. Does anyone have anything on consent agenda that they would like to move for questions or comments?
So,
Oh, Mr.
The approval of the minutes. I guess I had made a couple of requests for changes by the board for the last meeting, and we didn't have time to change them, but they will be put on the permanent record, I guess.
Okay, all right, thank you for letting us know. All right, so Mr. Pro made the motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I need a second support for that?
I'll support.
Supported by Ms. Pyden. Thanks for that, let us know that, appreciate it. And all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
So within that, we just hired a new teacher who's here, I believe, Kathleen Bellini, correct? Kathleen, you just stand back there. Let's welcome Kathleen.
Congratulations.
She's being hired as a speech pathologist. And where, you could stand right there and just, where is your kind of path taking you to arrive here?
So I've been a speech language pathologist for 5 years, and I started in Detroit Public Schools, and the last 4 years I've been with Richmond Community Schools.
The last 4 years, and now you're coming here. Congratulations, welcome to Chippewa Valley.
Congratulations, thank you for coming this evening.
Kathleen doesn't know if that was a quick interview. Her diction was perfect. The formation of all those sounds. Good job. Welcome to Chippewa Valley.
Item G1, approved change order summary report, Mr. Sutherland.
Recommended motions that Chippewa Valley School Board of Education approve the 2018 bond issue change order summary report for the month of May 2022.
I'll make the motion. Support. Rationale, please.
This work consists of changes to existing contracts for the purpose of owner requested work, deducts, code compliance, or hidden conditions on the construction and equipment projects. All amounts are within the contingency budget allocation. This report was reviewed with the Building and Site Subcommittee on Monday, June 6, 2022, and funding will come from the 2018 Building and Site Fund.
Questions or comments from the board members? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item G2, approved 2022-2023 breakfast program, Mr. Sutherland.
The recommended motions that the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education approve the breakfast program for the 2022-2023 school year as follows. Buildings with free reduced applications totaling less than 20% of enrollment in October 2021 are not mandated in offering a breakfast program that is in compliance with the applicable regulations in 2022-2023. Buildings with applications totaling more than 20% of enrollment in the October 2021 that are mandated to offer a breakfast program in 2022-2023 are Cherokee, Cheyenne, Clinton Valley, Erie, Fox, Huron, Miami, Mohawk, Ojibwa, and Ottawa elementary schools, Algonquin, Iroquois, Seneca, and Wyandotte middle schools, Chippewa Valley 9th grade center, Chippewa Valley High School, and Mohegan.
Does anyone want to make the motion for the breakfast program? Moved by Mr. Pearl, supported by Ms. Pyden. Rationale, please.
School districts are mandated to offer a breakfast program that is in compliance with USDA and state mission regulations in all buildings unless the district determines after conducting a public hearing to not offer the breakfast program in buildings where free and reduced price applications total less than 20% of building enrollment. While not mandated, the district also provides breakfast at Dakota High School, Sequoia Elementary School, and Shawnee.
Okay, anyone have questions, comments? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Approve year-end accounting procedures, Mr. Sutherland.
We recommend a motion that the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education authorize the business office to pay June bills prior to the July board approval to facilitate year-end accounting activities.
Support. Moved by Ms. Biden, supported by Mr. Pearl. Rationale, please.
In order to facilitate the closing of the fiscal year, we request that the business office be given the authorization to pay and release bills prior to the July board of Education meeting. This will allow the business office to release most 2021-2022 checks prior to the June 30th, 2022, decreasing audit time and the number of accounts payable entries. This deviation from normal procedures is only requested at the close of the fiscal year.
Any questions or comments from board members? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item G4, approve gas fee 54 resolution, Mr. Sutherland.
We recommend a motion that the following resolution be adopted by the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education, approving compliance with gas fee 54, designating commitment of fund balance in compliance with gas fee 54, and authorizing the Assistant Superintendent of Business and Operations to make assignments of fund balance in compliance with gas fee 54. Further request that the reading of the resolution be waived.
So moved.
I'll support. Moved by Mr. Pearl, supported by myself. Rationale, please.
GASB issued standards on how fund balance is to be classified and reported. Adoption of the resolution identifies the considerations related to GASB 54, designates committed fund balance, and authorization for designating assigned fund balance.
Any questions or concerns or comments by the Board of Education? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item G5, approved breakfast and lunch prices for 2022-2023.
The recommended motion that the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education approve breakfast and lunch prices effective for the 2022-2023 school year. That's fine.
The motion. If so.
Support.
Okay, moved by Ms. Pine, supported by Mr. Pearl. Rationale, please.
The above student breakfast and lunch prices have been the same as they were for the last 9 school years dating back to the 2013-2014 school year.
It's amazing. Any questions or comments? We managed to not raise prices at all during all this time. It's kind of unbelievable.
They're good.
Yeah, I guess. Especially right now. All right, anyone else have questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next is G6, approve resolution for workers' compensation excess insurance provider, Mr. Sutherland.
The recommended motions that the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education approve Bridge Excess Solutions to provide excess insurance coverage for the 2022-2023 and 2023-2024 school years, and the ASU group to provide TPA services for the 2022-23 and 2023-24 school years, and the Chippewa Valley Schools self-insured workers' compensation program. That the Assistant Superintendent of Business and Operations be authorized to execute the documents.
Support, I will support that. Rationale, please.
Current 2-year agreement with Bridge Excess Solutions to provide excess insurance coverage ends on June 30th, 2022. The current agreement with ASU to provide TPA services on our self-insured workers' compensation program ends on June 30th, 2023. For the 22-23 and 23-24 school years, a 2-year excess insurance quote was received from Bridge Access Solutions and a 1-year optional extension for TPA services from the ASU group with favorable financial options. A summary is attached.
So Scott, this provides a cap to our costs.
Right.
On the single claim or per claim?
It's per claim. Typically, you do not see a specific stop loss of 300,000 on self-insured workers' comp. The minimum is usually 400,000. So pretty favorable, pretty low for us.
Anyone else? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Item G7, approve elementary STEM plus class. Dr. Preston.
The recommended motion is that the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education approve STEM Plus to replace science as an elementary specials class commencing with the 2022-2023 school year.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Ms. Pine, supported by Mr. Pearl. Rationale, please.
This specials class reflects current student need. This class has been approved through our district's curriculum process and supported by the K-12 evaluation committee.
Questions that we did not already ask our leaders? Comments? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries. Do you mind me, since you asked no questions, do you mind me asking why you oppose it, Mr.? Would you like
Well, I
to
just
share?
made no, I did make the comment. I said I'd like to look into it further. I'd like to see it more in depth.
So you don't want it at all unless it can be more in depth?
I have no idea. I have to look at it.
Oh, you want more in depth information?
Yeah.
Okay, motion carries. Next on the agenda is item G9, approve school bus navigation. Oh, wait, skip 8, sorry guys. Yeah. Approve cooperative bid award for Lego STEM Plus program, Mr. Sutherland.
The recommended motions that the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education approve a purchase to Lego Education in the amount of $54,285.40 for the purchase of 192 Lego spike sets for the new STEM Plus program in the elementary schools.
Moved. Moved by myself, supported by Mr. Pearl. Rationale, please.
Aggressive pricing was obtained through the TIPS National Bid Cooperative Program, of which Chippewa Valley Schools is a member. This recommendation was approved by the Educational Services and Purchasing Departments using student intervention funds.
No, we already voted on it. I don't see any questions, comments. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion passes. I assume this is for the same reason. I just feel like the board members. G9, approved school bus navigation system. Mr. Sutherland.
The recommended motion is that Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education approve Zonar for a 3-year contract for en route bus route recording and turn-by-turn directions for a total 3-year cost of $118,258.40. This contract includes the purchase, installation, and warranty of Active 3 tablets, software licenses, security upgrades, training, and professional services.
Motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Pearl, Ms. Pyden, supported by Mr. Pearl. Rationale, please.
Aggressive pricing was obtained through the TIPS National Cooperative Bid in accordance with state law and board policy for cooperative purchasing 6440. Cooperative purchasing enables this aggregation of purchases for schools nationwide in joint ventures that maximize value for each dollar spent. The TIPS pricing was reviewed and approved by the Transportation and Business Offices. Funding for the initial $71,372 cost will come from the 2022-2023 general fund budget for the system implementation, and then the 2023 to 2025 general fund for the annual cost of $15,628.80 for ongoing subscription services, updates, warranty, and security protection.
Question, Mr. Williams?
Yes.
It says here that, that there's gonna be a tablet that each bus will have,
Yes.
and so it'll be mounted permanently by them, by their seat.
By the installer on the dash, yes.
Okay, and then it says the driver would select the route they are covering, the directions as soon as names will appear, and the driver is off doing the route. They have navigation on it. This will afford drivers to be flexible doing any route at a moment's notice. So the kids' names will appear where they're supposed to be.
Yes, at their stop locations, when you get to the stop, then the kids, things who's supposed to get off there will appear.
How do they do it now? Just
by reading papers. That's what they prove.
okay, well, this sounds a little safer.
Yes.
They have a little more control. Now the parents will still be notified when the bus is near the stop.
Yes, so this device here with our new routing system will all be alive with the parent app, so it'll be live action.
And your transportation department will know where every bus is at any time?
Yes, and so will the parents
And
at
this-
their particular time of their students.
I know this is maybe they can't do this, but if I set a route on certain apps, it'll tell me if the road's closed or something. Does it integrate with any of the?
This will not do that, but if your road is closed and you get off route, it will reroute you to get back on to where you're.
Yeah, I know it probably doesn't happen that much, but locally, but it sounds it's pretty sophisticated, though. I appreciate you bringing this forward. It's much better for everybody.
Yes.
And this is not something that they were gonna have to type in or anything while they're driving, right?
No, once they set it before they leave the yard, then it goes from there, the screen goes blank, and will be audio once the vehicle comes to a complete stop, then the screen lights up per se. So they're not looking at driving.
And I guess it might have been answered already, but how much does this break down to per bus and how long is it for?
For 3 years, I don't know.
88 buses.
Yes.
So the tablet is probably about $750 a piece. And then the subscription is.
It says, yes, it's on the sheet that's attached.
It's a total number, right? But it doesn't have.
Well, yeah, 675 for each tablet. So it's 9,400. So that's okay. I'm just.
Okay, that's for 3 years, right? Right.
Okay.
Oh, I just have one more question, and I guess a comment. Thank you, Mr. Williams, for all you've done this year and making sure our buses run timely and that we haven't had to cancel any routes like many districts around us. But do you know any other districts in the area that are using the same system?
Yes, Fraser is using the same system along with student scans.
Oh,
I went down to Fraser first and reviewed their system, and we had the same system with me in Seattle.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, thank you so much.
Are Questions? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is item G10, approves the 2023 Appropriation Act for General and Special Revenue Funds. Mr. Settlement.
Last one, I promise.
Yeah.
Recommend a motion that the following resolution be adopted by the Chippewa Valley School Board of Education to approve the general fund, food service fund, community services, child care fund, cooperative activities fund, and the student/school activity fund budgets for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. And further request that the reading of the resolution be waived.
Motion moved by Mr. Carl, supported by Ms. supported. Rationale.
The Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act requires that governmental units, including school districts, adopt a budget prior to the start of the fiscal year. The 2022-2023 budgets, the general fund, food service fund, community services, child care fund, cooperative activities fund, and the student school activities fund that are provided by the administration. Revenue budget for the general fund has been developed using major factors, including a decreased blended enrollment projection of 280 FTE based upon the current staffing model, anticipated school aid increase of $435 per pupil for the governor's budget proposal, decrease of the 2021-2022 ESSER funds of about $21.9 million used during the 2021-22 school year. Restores local property taxes and enhancement village funds of $20.3 million previously transferred to support the student intervention program in 21-22. Retirement cost offset revenue funds an additional $198,000. Review and adjustment of other revenue sources as appropriate. The expenditure budget for the general fund has been developed using major factors, including assumed second year impact of labor agreements, net wage, that should say decrease of $360,655, combines adjustments for retirements, vacancies, stipend reduction, and schedule movement. The retirement cost offset expenditure funding of $198,000. The UAAL retirement expense alignment from 15.05% to 16.65%. The impact of increased healthcare insurance rates and increased hard cap limit under the PA 152 for health insurance benefits and cash in lieu of health, and review and adjustment of other expenditure items as appropriate. In summary, we have projected revenues of $183,771,392 and projected expenditures of $184,279,059 for a budgeted over operating deficit of $507,667, decreasing the fund balance to $31,419,077.
Questions from the board members?
Okay. Just to comment again, we already went over this, but thing we just gave away $3 million to staff. Now we're coming through with $500,000. I'm trusting you to say that you said that this is the budget on paper, the real thing around here. Even though it is an assumption, with all the years you've been doing this, you're saying it's a good assumption to say that will be good, right? Okay.
Yeah, there are two main factors in the budget. Our enrollment and the increase per pupil from the state. Both of those are unknown factors right now. Based upon our projection, yes, the $500,000 that we have in expenditures and seen for revenues will be offset by positive budget variance of at least $1 million. Typically, I come in $1 million better than the budget every year. So, based upon the projections, yes, we should be fine.
Anyone else?
Just want to note that 3 of us did go through a finance committee meeting prior to the meeting. And this budget is on what we'll be talking.
All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next is H from the queue. First person on the agenda. First person, Melody Barron, let's come to the microphone, please.
Good evening, and I'd like to wish you the best this summer and that you would enjoy your time this summer, get to spend some time with your family. And I would encourage you as well this summer to make yourself more keenly aware of CRT, that you now won't have to be doing so many meetings for the daily grind that you've had here. And I know it has been a difficult couple years. And this past year, I know, was a big change because now everybody was back, but now you had to re-navigate, how do we get back and what do we do? And there were so many things going on. So I recognize that that's been very difficult for not only all of you, but it's been very difficult for parents and that. And in the same time, it has been one of those good things, bad things. You know, with the online teaching that occurred and what happened with the community was before, teachers often would say, or staff would say, I wish we could get parents more involved. I wish these parents cared more. I wish they would do more with their students. How can we get people to become more involved? Because staff tended to get burned out, gets tired of trying to pick up all the loose ends all the time. So that happened with the online because now parents were forced to be involved because of the nature of the way it was being run, the way it was being set up. But then the downside is maybe now we have all these parents that are involved, but it isn't necessarily the things that we want to necessarily hear. But it's still a good thing because now we have to see where is possibly there a divide or where is there possibly a problem and what is it that we can do about it to work together. And that's the thing that I really would like to encourage you to do, that you would continue to look at those areas of concern that parents have been bringing to you this year because there has been so much more involvement, so much more expression of what is concerning them, what bothers them. But you also have to be aware, part of what appears to be dissenting conflict between the two factions and two groups is because there are people speaking out within your own school district, your own staff on Facebook and place that are saying things that just makes parents that are feeling like they're not being heard even more upset and angry. So again, I've said this before, it'd be wonderful if there could be some stakeholder group of some sort where you could get together and have people sit down and have a discussion and talk about those things. Likewise, committees, being able to be part of committees, of which I did go to one of the committees recently and learned at this committee that they're presenting all these different people that are involved in the committee and the excitement they had, that they had great representation, only to find out that one of the representations that they had been listing on the committee so they could check the box off had been slightly inflated because one of the people had already resigned 2 years ago and had been replaced. So I would encourage you to make sure that staff and people are always being very transparent, doing things really above board so that people don't have an opportunity to become upset and be disgruntled or have difficulties, but that they can have a discussion. So I really, I do thank you for it. It's a hard job. I recognize that. But we do have to recognize we're not always going to all disagree. How can we come together to work toward an end that meets the best for all students? And the last thing I'd like to ask, and it was something that got said about transportation, I was kind of interested on that computer tablet that's on there that comes up. is the point of having all the students' names come up on the tablet, just so that you know that there's 10 that comes off here and you count 10 students, or 10 that come on and you count 10 students? Or do they show their card and their card gets scanned? Is there a way that you're gonna be able to keep track that yes, X number of students came on or didn't come off? I mean, I don't know if you even know the answer to that, but I'm curious, because then what's the point, other than if they had a sheet of paper in their bus that said 10 students, they could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I guess I just throw that out.
You have a half a minute left.
So I don't know what the answer is to that, but some food for thought for those who are instituting that. So thank you very much. Enjoy your summer.
Thank you, thank you. Next is Mr. Shipley. If you'd like to approach the microphone, please.
See how I do this. How will I do it holding this thing? So when I first talked to you about the amount of computer use our kids are doing in the classroom, I mentioned that data doesn't support educational attainment being correlated with computer use. When I was first frustrated with how much my kids were using computers, I didn't know that. I was just upset that they were chatting with strangers on the internet in class. I talked to my brother-in-law who's got 20 years in education. He's got I believe he has a PhD now. He's been an administrator, been a teacher. He's the one who told me there is no correlation between computer use or one-to-one computers in schools and education attainment. That was news to me. I dug into it. In fact, the opposite is true. Research overwhelmingly shows that the more kids use computers in the classroom, the worse they do on standardized tests. So I mentioned twice that the data doesn't support having one-to-one computers or daily computer use. Well, I brought some data today. So this research was a 1,000-point questionnaire. The 0 here represents 500 points, the mean. And the top 2 lines are correlation of at-home computer use to test scores. So at-home computer use, if we got monthly, weekly, daily, and never. So the 0 is never in school and never at-home computer use. For at-home computer use, there is a small positive correlation for monthly and weekly at-home computer use. Daily at-home computer use, it's about nil. In school computer use, there is sometimes a tiny correlation for monthly and weekly in-school computer use to educational attainment, but this big drop-off you see right there, that represents daily in-school computer use. That's the same across genders. It's a multi-country study, 900,000 students. It has to be at least 1,000 schools involved in this study. And it is the same across countries, the same across about every metric they've measured. The biggest, strongest correlation is that daily in-school computer use represents about an 8% drop in standardized test scores. That's taking a C student and turning them into a D student. And that's what we're doing by putting computers in kids' hands every day. So the STEM thing, and I'm not railing against that. I still think that could be done right with just limited computer use. I guess I'll let you guys see the graph as well. What I was talking about was, thank you, Terry.
We couldn't see.
That giant drop off right there is daily in-school computer use. That cliff. Test scores fall off a cliff when kids use computers every day. So the STEM thing, they mentioned in the process, they said identifying the problem. That's a problem. One of the things that talked about in that process was equity. So kids who were already poor performers, they were more negatively affected by daily in-school computer use. So kids who were good performers saw a negative impact, but it wasn't as significant. Kids who are already struggling, you put a computer in front of them every day, and they see a bigger drop off. So it is anti-equity in terms of educational attainment. I don't know how much time I have left, but I'm gonna just read a couple things from.
We have 1 minute left.
Okay. All right, so this study references another study, and I'm gonna email it to people. Another quasi-experimental study found that students at a military college who were allowed to use computers at lectures performed significantly worse. So this was observational. Now this is a reference to an experimental study. Performed worse than other students. Without supervision, students were more likely to use computers for non-productive tasks, such as social media and chatting during lectures. Correspondingly, increased computer access did not improve grades or cognitive ability among younger children, and computers were mostly used for entertainment purposes. And one last thing, some studies that suggest that there's some positive correlation, a tiny positive correlation between computer use and test scores, none of those control for socioeconomic. So those studies are rich schools that have more computers. Well, they're doing better because they're rich schools with well-supporting parents, not because they have computers. When you
Your
control.
time is up, but I could not agree with you more on that last statement.
Okay.
People that are more affluent are certainly gonna have students that get more support at home, and that I agree with you 100%. So thank you for your time. Is Sandra Herndon. Like to come to the microphone.
Good evening. My name is Sandra Herndon, the parent that this school board has referred to the Department of Justice as a domestic terrorist. Just so that we're clear, the Department of Military Defense defines terrorism as the calculated use of unlawful violence or threat of unlawful violence to instill fear, intended to coerce or intimidate governments or societies in pursuit of goals that are generally political, religious, or ideological. A domestic terrorist has the same meaning. The caveat is that the person is actually from the same country in which they intend to terrorize those people. Michigan compiled law, MCL 750.411X para 6 para A para I, defines a threat as intended to place a person in fear or bodily harm of death, or expresses an intent to commit violence against a person. Now that we have legal terms clearly defined, I'd like to talk about the last board meeting. In particular, the board member that emphatically tapped her FOIA paper saying that I threatened her children. I'm not quite sure how an email about a Sixth Circuit Court decision regarding school boards violating parents' civil and constitutional rights is a threat to your children, especially since the school board member hasn't been included with the majority of the emails that I've sent. The truth of the matter is she has only received one from me from February 8th of 2020 regarding a complaint against a school board member. Your false narrative was premeditated with malice and forethought, negligent and reckless. That was done to further this board's character assassination of me, and you outright lied. This is completely and totally socially unacceptable. Now, I know board members claim they did not agree verbally with this email this board member sent with my name in it into the Department of Justice. I'd like to know actually how many of you responded in writing to this interdepartmental email expressing that it should not be done. As for the board member that could not recall if they sent that email, I'm not buying it, especially when it's the board's intent to deprive a parent not only of their physical freedom, but most importantly, their freedom of speech. That is truly something you do not forget. As for the emails that I have sent to this board, I have always been blunt, straight, and very straight to the point. This is how I choose to communicate and how I express myself, no matter how much any of you dislike it. I have asked and requested, and yes, I have demanded from this school board transparency, honesty, and absolutely accountability. I have provided scientific data you choose to discard and discredit. I have provided laws to this board in an attempt to stop from the defaming, abusive, and otherwise bullying of me in an effort to keep this board from destroying my good name, exceptional character, and protect my children from your wrath. Never once was an expressed or veiled threat ever made. I definitely challenge you to prove otherwise, especially since every email that I've sent to this board, I've made sure I sign my name because I am no coward. To the board that brought this matter from the dark into the light, we parents see you and we thank you. You have shown the true colors of this board and its lack of respect to opposing
We have one
views.
more minute. I just want to give you.
And how this board will stop at nothing, absolutely nothing, to silence them. To this board, you believe I am the sole reason for parents speaking out against you, your policies and decisions? Well, I am quite honored to be that hero parent. All I did was help them find the courage and strength and pave the way for their voices to be heard. I gladly shoulder the weight and all the consequences that come with it. I will gladly be viewed as a civil rights activist like Rosa Parks, and eventually a political prisoner like Nelson Mandela. The truth does not mind being questioned. A lie does not like being challenged. In closing, if my voice had no power, why are you trying so hard to silence me?
Next is Monica Pupil.
On March 24th, 2022, I sent a FOIA to the Chippewa Valley School District asking if any board member had made a complaint to the Department of Justice on any district parents or Moms for Liberty. On March 31st, 2022, I received an email from the district asking for a 10-day extension. On April 18th, 2022, I received a denial to my FOIA stating a public record did not exist. On April 28th, 2022, I submitted an appeal to the denial. On May 16, 2022, the Board of Education reviewed my FOIA appeal and determined that the district was not in possession of any documents that met my FOIA request. Interesting, because I have that document right here that was denied, and this document, which is an email, was sent to all board members except Mr. Pearl because he was not on the board yet, and our superintendent, Mr. Roberts. The board denied my appeal knowing that an email did exist for my FOIA request. Mr. Roberts also did not speak up and say that an email was sent. Why are board members and our superintendent trying to hide and lie about a FOIA? On June 6, 2022, at the Board of Education meeting, the board decided to amend its denial. On June 8, 2022, I finally received the email that I was denied from our board president to all board members, CC Mr. Roberts, sent on October 5th. Hello, FYI, I forwarded this email below from Sandra Hurden, along with a complaint about her and Mothers of Liberty to the Department of Justice, Frank B. We teach our children from a very young age to always tell the truth. Apparently, this board and our superintendent would much rather try to hide and cover up an issue than tell the truth about it. If you're willing to lie to parents about an email, what else are you lying to us about? How can we trust you with our children when you have no issues with lying to parents? I have yet to receive an apology from the board of education or the superintendent. Interesting enough, I had sent this email to Mr. Roberts on October 29th, 2021. This is part of the email I sent. The last thing I'm going to discuss in this email about parents being called domestic terrorists. I'm pretty sure there are members of the board that consider some of us parents domestic terrorists. As a very local parent, this really saddens me. Just because some of the board members disagree with my decisions on how to protect my children, it doesn't give you the right to make decisions for them. My children are my #1 priority. I got involved because of policies that were put in place that were negatively affecting my children. My goal is to work together with the school district to make sure our children are getting the best education possible. It's not a secret that things are going in the wrong direction in public education. Schools and parents have been all over the news for months.
In order to have a successful district, you need to have parent involvement. I should be able to trust the schools that I have my children enrolled in. How can I trust that board members are making the best choices for our kids when they consider parents who disagree with them domestic terrorists? You cannot have a successful school if you do not value the parents. If board members do not value parent input, then you cannot value our children and you should step down from your position. Mr. Roberts responds, I will very quickly address the term domestic terrorist. I have seen this term in the national media, but it has never been a part of our vernacular here. I'm not even sure how that term even begins to fit considering our positive relationship with parents in this district. Our Board of Education understands that all parents want what is best for their children. Our goal as a district is to provide just that. We are providing an education that meets the needs of nearly 15,000 students, and sometimes parents have different opinions about what is best. Nevertheless, when parents bring individual concerns to administration and/or the teaching staff, we always work with them in a respectful manner and attempt to meet their needs. In most cases, we are able to come to a reasonable resolution. I received this email after Mr. Roberts knew that Mr. Bernard had already sent an email saying he was making a complaint about a district parent and Moms for Liberty to the Department of Justice. I've been to 26 board meetings. I've actually attended more board meetings than some board members. I've spoken at 10 of them. Never once have I been threatening or disrespectful. Just because you don't agree with what I'm saying doesn't give you the right to submit a complaint. I would love to hear why Mr. Bernard submitted the complaint if he ever decides to come back. These meetings are recorded. Anyone can go back and listen to my speeches. You are also free to FOIA my emails, or I would be glad to give all of my emails to anyone that would like to see them. What I have done for this district has been very involved because I care about my children's education and other children's education. I've joined our school's PTO and have helped out at multiple events. The first week volunteers were welcome back. I helped at the book fair. I volunteered in my son's classroom. I've attended a beautification event at the school on a Saturday when only 4 parents showed up to help. I've signed up to sub because I've heard teachers were losing out on their preps and some classrooms were not getting subs, and they were having 4 to 5 different teachers in the classroom. I'm running for school.
Ms. Radico, your time is up.
I'm almost done. Just let me finish, please.
No.
Literally, the only way for me to be more involved would be to get a job here.
Nope, I'm not letting you finish. Just thank you for your comment. Sorry. All right, next up is Mr. Prince. Oh, Mr. Prince.
So it's been quite a while since I've been up here at this microphone. But the last couple of meetings that I've been to and watched online, I've been concerned about something, and a couple of people have already addressed that, mentioned that word transparency. So that brought me up here today because in the last meeting, which I wasn't able to attend, I viewed it online later and noticed that a agenda item was on there about changing board policies. Actually, two agenda items for changing board policies, one of which as a topic of the parental involvement section of our meetings. Nowhere, however, have I been able to find what those changes are actually to be. They were not part of the minutes of last month's board meeting or June 6th board meeting. They were not part of the agenda of the board meeting. They are not part of the agenda of today's board meeting. And I don't know if they'll be a part of the agenda of the July 11th board meeting because of course my crystal ball is broken. I would like to know what those changes are and when they will be published. I know that there was a mention in the last board meeting on the agenda that changes to the board meeting, changes to the policies have to be voted on twice over a period of over 28 days. My belief is that that rule is there to allow the public time to review those changes and make public comment. However, if the public doesn't have access to those changes, how in the world is the public going to make comment? That is transparency. And that is what this board is lacking. I think I'll leave it at that, and I would like to yield the rest of my time to Ms. Monica Redco.
This district has your priorities all wrong. Instead of sending complaints to the Department of Justice, why don't you find out why this district has seen a decline in enrollment of 980 students? We do only have 4 elementary schools that have above 50% for 3rd grade reading proficiency. Why are we one of the lowest paying districts for sub pay? Why is Dakota's pool not working and why is mold growing in the girls' bathroom? Why is the scoreboard at Chippewa broken? Why do we have parking lots full of potholes? Why do our schools keep having serious safety concerns? This Board of Education needs to be replaced with people who want to make this district better. And I'm going to end with this quote: if your voice held no power, they wouldn't try to silence you.
This evening, next is Union Communications.
Good evening, board members and administration. I'm Tara Kosek, I'm president of the CVEA. I would like to take the opportunity to thank you for all of your support and that you've given us this school year. And we are very grateful to work in a district that values its teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Pupil.
Board members. Just want to say thanks for allowing me to come here tonight to say a few words. It's the end of the school year. We've all made it to this finish line, pumped, bruised, a little bit battered, all that kind of stuff. But one of the things that I want to say, I think embodies Chippewa Valley Schools is throughout this year, I have seen every person in this organization do something extra to try to get us through all of this. And I think I attribute that to you guys. And I'm here to say thank you to all of you for what you do, for the example that you guys set for all of us. Because of what you do, because of the support that you show, everybody else gives that extra bit to help us get through. So continue doing what it is that you do. It is greatly appreciated, and we're looking very forward to next school year. So,
in the summer. Okay.
Summer, yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, next is any administrative reports, Mr. Weber?
I have no reports this evening.
Thank you. Item K, curriculum updates. Back to the end of the year, educational goals, progress reports. Dr. Brasky.
Thank you, Ms. Graham.
You're welcome.
Good evening. Tonight, John Defania, our Assistant Assessment Data Analysis Coordinator, is with me to present to you Chippewa Valley's 2021-2022 Educational Goals Progress Report. According to state law, all school districts in Michigan must do the following. That is, administer benchmark assessments aligned with state standards, determine whether students are making meaningful progress towards mastery of these standards, publicly report these goal accomplishments to the Board of Education in February before the last day of the school year. The Goals Progress Report will also be published via the district website. Data were to be disaggregated by grade level, student demographics, and mode of instruction. In the fall, we administered NWEA MAP growth assessments in reading and math to all students in grades 3 through 10, and this was done again this past spring. These assessment results, along with the other data, were used to monitor progress toward our goals over the school year. For students in grades K through 2, local assessments through FastBridge were used over the course of the school year to monitor progress towards our goals. In grades 9 through 12, local assessments that were created by teams of teachers and aligned to our state standards were utilized to determine whether students were making meaningful progress toward the mastery of these standards. Our goals for the 2021-22 school year were that each school and the district would show growth in reading, ELA, and mathematics achievement as measured on NWEA MAP growth and local reading and math assessments. Schools used a variety of strategies and assessments to support meaningful student progress for mastery of academic standards in reading and math. Results from benchmark and local assessments were continuously discussed and analyzed by teachers and staff. Our focus was to help students recover in what many consider the most difficult year for learning, the 2020-2021 school year. The entire end of the year report of assessment results was provided in your recent board packet. At this time, John will give you an overview of our progress on our educational goals in reading and math.
Good evening, board. Just want to fill you in a little bit on what you saw in your packet that you received regarding these goals. If you remember, Dr. Brodsky said we did the NWA assessment for students in grades 3 through 10, students in kindergarten through second grade to the past group assessment. And as the students did that, we made sure that this is something we normally do anyway, but also was in compliance with our 98B requirements. So what you see in the reports are for any subgroup of students that have greater than 30 students in it. So when you look at that subgroup, those are the reporting data that you'll see as you go through. And when you talk about the reading scores first, remember the scores are being shown through RIT score, which is an NWEA score showing the achievement of the students, kind of as the standard score from the test. Same scores we showed you in February when we shared the fall results with you. And if you remember in February when we talked about the fall results, reading did not drop as significantly as we thought it might have over the pandemic. And I theorized with you as I talked with you that teaching reading during the pandemic virtually remotely went fairly well, and you can see that about the student results, but they didn't drop nearly as much as maybe it had been expected, or maybe that some of the reports had predicted. And so we were very happy with that. And as we look at these spring results, we see some very nice growth on the top of page 2. You see the scores that were provided for each grade level 3 through 8, where you see the RIT scores at each grade go up significantly. Basically with RIT, you will see the lowest grades have the largest amount of growth. So for example, a first grade student who didn't take NWA this year, but you would see them have maybe 15 to 20 points of growth. And then a 12th grader who didn't take the test either would be only expected to have maybe 1 point of growth. And it kind of moves in that direction. So here we see in the reading score some very, very nice improvement at each grade level based on the RIT score in reading. So we were very, very happy to see that. Now, if you remember when we talked about math, the math scores were lower than we had hoped. We talked about how that probably was due once again to the fact that reading was harder to be taught virtually or remotely. And so it was my hope from observation and from conversations I was having around the district that just by the fact that the students were back in the classroom in a more normal situation, that math would have been a little bit easier to be taught and learned in the classroom. And the data shows that. The math scores, the math RIT scores have gone up significantly over the school year. And you can see that on the top of page 3. Those scores show not only normal growth, but above normal growth as from 3rd to 8th grade, where we'll see as much as in 3rd grade, 11.2 RIT points of growth on average, and in 8th grade, 6.6 points of growth on average, was very, very positive, and we were very, very happy to see that. The rest of the report will be available on the district website beginning tomorrow, Dr. Brodsky. Yep. And so we will, I believe as the law states right now, we will be reporting again next February on the goals, just like this, because the 98A law continues for 1 more year as it's written. So,
Thank you, Mr. Kafavia. Anyone have any questions that we can answer at this time?
I just have one. So the document that you sent us in our board packet,
yes,
it showed the chart, which I thought you might show as a presentation. But anyway, is that all going in? Is that in its entirety? Is what will be posted on our website in terms of breakdown of the grades as well as the by demographics?
The entire document will be published.
The public to be able to see it.
Yes,
All right,
the February, the mid-year has already been posted. It's been up there for the year, and this will also be up there.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
right. Next is of entitled board. Anything they would like to mention?
I do.
Okay,
All the email that came forth with FOIA. When I got it, I knew it wasn't right. We have local law enforcement to handle that stuff, or even our officers that are at every meeting. Should have been addressed to them. And something was said by somebody tonight that I want to apologize to Sandra Herndon and Monica Radko. Because I too didn't step forward and stop it. And I want to apologize for that. If anything was considered a terrorist threat, it should have went to local law enforcement. I knew that, so I apologize to both of you.
all right, anyone else, Mr. Pearl?
Yes, I'd like to thank Dr. Brodsky, who took some time to meet with me regarding the meeting issues that are going on. I appreciate you taking that time. And sometimes you can't get everything answered by phone. And I know the board members interested, is in the past I've met with administrators, and thank you for taking that time to explain the new program in more detail. The second thing I'd like to mention is this past Saturday, in cooperation with the Macomb Township Parks and Rec, there was a wonderful event at Seneca, and thank you to the schools for allowing Seneca to be used for the kids. They had what's called tons of trucks. There were probably 5,000 plus people there.
I heard 6,000.
6,000.
So it was
for
really
3
good.
hours, and our community came out and enjoyed this program that in cooperation with Macomb Township Parks and Rec. They do a wonderful job, and they're using our Seneca grounds. When they're done, they clean everything up. It's perfect. And they don't go in the schools. It's all outside in the parking lots. And they have probably 50 exhibits of vehicles that are used in construction and everything else under the sun. Ambulances. The sheriff department was there with a number of vehicles. There were food trucks. There were bouncy houses, many of them there. There were people giving out things. Of course, sponsors were there, but it was well attended, perfect weather. And as a member of the Chippewa Valley Foundation, we had some things that we were giving out to kids, and I thought was really remarkable. Next to me, and I kind of helped this problem put it together. There was a group from the schools, and I think it's funded by a grant, that were giving out kits to put together plants so the kids would learn how to grow flowers. And everything was there to measure the flowers as they grew. And I think potting soil was there, the seeds and instructions and things, and the parents loved it. I think we gave out 700 of them. They were lined up getting them, and it was wonderful that the parents just thought this is a great item. There were other things that they were giving out too, but they ran out of those. But, a lot of those kits are great for kids to learn, and they take them home, and some of them have spoken about, they got them a few years ago from us, and they just enjoyed it. So it was it was a very positive event. I appreciate Macomb Township Parks and Rec putting it on, and also Chippewa Valley Schools allowing them to use Seneca. Thank you.
Yeah. I agree. I happened to be there also. It was a great event, and I was also trying to get to a baseball diamond for my grandson's baseball game, and so that was interesting. But I made it both. I wanted to mention a couple things that have been happening in our district, as many of you know. Last weekend, the weather was cooperative, and we were able to hold all of our commencement ceremonies, which were very well attended. We had more than 1,300 students that that graduated last year from Chippewa Valley, Dakota, and from Mohegan High School. On behalf of the board, we are very proud of it and would like to congratulate all of our students and their families, and we know that our students will go on to do great things in the future. Also this week, the CVS Human Resources Department had a job fair. It was held on June 16th, and it was at the central office to promote hiring for next school year. As you know, we've been having shortages, and as have every organization. So that is our way of trying to, there were some candidates that were hired on the spot. 49 people attended, and some received job offers immediately. In addition to regular advertising that the HR department has done in the past, they're also using social media and on-demand TV with 30-second commercials to help recruit new employees to Chippewa Valley. The last item is the our foundation this year, because of the COVID rules, we haven't been able to have our taste fest for the last couple of years, which is it's a great community event. And with the foundation held this year an online auction in place of the annual Taste for Education, and the auction raised $21,000 for many grants for the classrooms, for our teachers, and college scholarships both. I want to thank the event sponsors and for all of our local businesses that provided auction items, and we'll go back into the classroom for grants to the to the teachers to help with our students. So I'd like to congratulate them on that. And next year the Taste Fest will be in person. One last item, and this is something I congratulated when I saw it. I thought it was really exciting. Many of you that come to board meetings have probably seen Mr. Picard, that is the choir director at Chippewa Valley High School. He is always at the school, no matter what time of day. He's always there every night. He's very, very dedicated. He was named the 2022 Best Teacher of the Year by Our Magazine. He's an outstanding employee. It's great to see him receiving this regional honor and award, making him tops in the Metro Detroit area. So we'd like to extend our congratulations to him. And of course, we're very proud to have him as a member of our staff. We feel like we got a diamond when we got him. So anyway, that's the things I wanted to talk about, and I'd like to say the next item on the agenda. Is there anyone else that wants to say anything? No? Is item M, adjournment. Do I have motions for adjournment? By Mr. Kaiser, supported by Mr. Pearl. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed. Motion